Hello, my friends. Today, the intensity of fighting remains high. Let's jump straight into the current situation along the front lines. In the Pokrovsk direction, the Russians are conducting their attempts to push closer to the highway, assaulting Myrolюбівка and Vozdvizhenka. However, the Ukrainian forces are successfully repelling all attacks, and the front line has shifted in the past 24 hours. The fighting also continues near Noviehorivka, where the Russians are making gradual progress. As of today, the distance from the furthest front line to Pokrovsk remains 8 kilometers and 700 meters. Further south, near Селидове, Цукурине, Гірник, and Желанне Друге, the fighting hasn't stopped either, although the front line has remained unchanged over the past day. It has been confirmed, however, the Russian forces have started advancing through the fields near Tsukurine, and they've made significant progress. Geolocation data shows that Ukrainian forces are already hitting Russian positions there from FPV drones, which suggests that the Russians are trying to secure their foothold. Additionally, there is evidence of heavy equipment being moved, which indicates a serious escalation in the area. The situation is worsening, and we are awaiting official statements, but changes for the worse are likely in the near future. In the Kurakhove direction, the battles are ongoing as well. The Russians are assaulting Maximilianivka and Katerynivka, pushing through the fields from the village of Kostiantynivka. Despite this, the Ukrainian forces managed to repel all attacks in the past 24 hours, and the front line remains stable. And things are looking very grim in the Vuhledar direction. The Russians have managed to extend their flanks, aiming to encircle Vuhledar, though no new attacks were recorded today. However, the city itself is under daily assault. Russian FPV drones are targeting all Ukrainian positions within the city, making its defense increasingly difficult. Numerous videos show the destruction of the city by artillery as well, with residential buildings, potential strongholds for Ukrainian forces, being leveled. The situation is dire, and reports from the ground suggest that control over the city may soon be lost. Some Ukrainian military sources even claim that Russian forces have already reached the outskirts of Vuhledar. Russian troops have reached the outskirts of Vuhledar, says a soldier from the 24th Separate Assault Battalion Aidar. The situation in the Kurakhove and Vuhledar areas is not in Ukraine's favor, as Russian forces are exhausting our resources and achieving some success. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, it also seems that the Russians are planning some kind of breakthrough. This is indicated by periodic surges in offensive activity and heavy shelling. However, for now, Russian attacks are concentrated only around Robotyne without success. The Ukrainian forces are holding the line, and the front line remains unchanged. It also been confirmed that Russians are striking Nikopol with FPV drones. Intercepted video footage from Russian drone shows FPV drones randomly targeting civilian homes in Nikopol, likely with thermal traps burning at temperatures of around 2000 degrees, causing fires. It's clear they are not targeting military sites, and in fact, the drone appears to be far from precise. The Russians seem to have attached thermal trap blocks to the drone, but it's clearly larger than the usual Type 7 drones. This might be a test before using it in combat conditions. In the Kherson direction, attempts to break through on the islands near Hola Pristan continue, but Ukrainian forces are crushing the Russian assaults, and the front line remains unchanged. Additionally, the shelling of the right bank shows no signs of stopping. Now let's move on to the situation in the Toretsk direction. Things are also difficult here. Nelipivka is under great threat today as the Russians are trying to encircle their settlement while direct assaults continues as well. Similarly, the Russians are pushing closer to the center of Toretsk with daily shelling and attacks. In the Dachne area, Russian forces continue their efforts to break through to Toretsk from the east. However, there have been no changes in the past 24 hours, with Ukrainian forces successfully repelling the attacks. In the Chasiv Yar direction, we can say that success is on the side of the Ukrainian forces. Despite minor Russian advances, they occasionally break through and attempt to extend their flanks. However, Ukrainian forces continue to hold the front line without major changes, and Chasiv Yar remains under Ukrainian control. Today, the Russians are still trying to break through near Grigorivka, Kalynivka, and the forest area, as well as assaulting Klishchiivka, but Ukrainian forces successfully repel all attacks and the front line remains unchanged. In the Siversk direction, the Russians are trying to advance near Bilohorivka and Vyimka, but they haven't achieved any new successes, and the front line also remains unchanged over the past day. In the Kreminna direction, the Russians continue to assault Nevske, haven't managed to advance across the fields, getting dangerously close to the village. The situation has seriously worsened. According to official reports, the village hasn't yet fallen, and the fighting continues. However, some sources indicate that Nevske might already be under Russian control. We are waiting for official confirmations, but further changes are likely in the near future. In the Svatove area, battles are ongoing for Lozova, with Russian forces trying to break through from Stelmachivka across the fields. South of this area, after capturing Noviehorivka, the Russians continue to storm Chernyshina and Druzhelyubivka, aiming to capitalize on their momentum and take control of these next settlements. If they succeed, they could open up operational space. The key Ukrainian defense line is currently situated around Chernyshina. If this village falls, it could lead to a collapse of Ukrainian defenses in this section of the front, as there are no other major defensive lines beyond this point. In the Kupiansk direction, battles are ongoing near Thinkivka, Petropavlivka, Glushkivka, and Krugliachivka. Shelling continues, but over the past day, Ukrainian forces have managed to repel all attacks, and the front line remains unchanged. In the Kharkiv direction, the Russians continue to strike Kharkiv. However, frontline activity is relatively low, with fighting mainly concentrated in Vovchansk and near the village of Tykhe. Ukrainian forces have successfully repelled all attacks so far, though the Russians are once again trying to break through the area around the factory. In the Kursk direction, the Russians continue shelling border settlements in the Sumy region. However, there are no reports of clashes along the front line, and the situation remains unchanged for now. Meanwhile, more information is emerging indicating that Russia's nuclear threats are just that, threats. Even Russian military correspondents are now reporting that all their nuclear missile tests are failing. Another failed test of the intercontinental Sarmat missile suggests that our country likely has no nuclear shield. The missiles don't launch, and if they do attempt to launch, they'll explode and turn not the West, but Russia itself into radioactive ash. We're essentially living on a powder keg with the fuse in the hands of elderly leaders who have long lost touch with reality. Even our top TV presenters are beginning to realize this. Solovyov himself called for the resignation of the Supreme Commander-in-Chief. It's no coincidence that the State Duma is preparing a law for life imprisonment for attempts at a military coup. It's important to note that this information is coming from Russian war correspondents. And here is Solovyov's statements on this matter. He even suggests the resignation of the commander-in-chief.
Мало посадить тех, кто провинился. Еще необходимо назначить тех, которые понимают, как это сделать эффективно, быстро и четко. И неважно, в каком они будут министерстве и как они будут называться. Мне совершенно не важно, какого цвета кошка, важно, чтобы она ловила мышей. Поэтому давайте уже переходить к конкретным решениям. Если для этого необходимо, чтобы была ставка Верховного, ну, как говорят мои друзья, я понимаю, что я человек, ну, как бы не по моей зарплате такие решения принимать, но давайте все-таки брать все лучшее, что у нас было в опыте великих эпох, и решать теми методами, которые необходимы для того, чтобы здесь сейчас.
Clearly, dissatisfaction is growing as Russia's strength is revealed to be mostly rhetoric. In reality, the only successes are achieved through sheer manpower losses. Meanwhile, there is a strong likelihood that the Russians are once again stockpiling missiles to carry out massive strikes before winter. Blinken also mentioned this.
Months, and particularly getting through the winter. We have once again, not just the prospect, but the reality of Putin weaponizing winter, weaponizing the weather, to use energy as a weapon in his efforts to subjugate Ukraine. And we know that the upcoming winter will be challenging.
As we can see, the coming winter will be tough. What do you think about this? Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.